All right. Welcome back to another episode of the Strongman Winner Circle podcast, episode 27, with my co-host, Anthony Furman. And today's guest needs no introduction, but I'm going to give one to him anyway. So he's amassed many international wins so far in his career, including the first ever Rogue Invitational, won the Arnold Classic this past year, won World's Strongest Man 2019. He's here. He's there. He's freaking everywhere. Martins.
That took him 4 weeks to write.
Sure did.
Great.
No. Yeah, he was very excited to do that. Hey, and I just want to say, of course, thank you. When we want winners on the podcast, and you win not only in strongman competitions, but I mean, like what you're doing right now with your Strength Unknown, the series.
Oh, I'm so excited about this. Just got back from Latvia, Estonia, Lithuania, Norway, Colombia. What an adventure that was, like almost 6 weeks out there.
That's such a long time.
Sure is.
Yeah. Got some videos done with Ivar's, Big Z, Rauna Heinla, got the stem cell therapy behind the scenes done. And then I got to see Odd Haugen's home in Norway.
My future home as well.
Yeah, I know you love Norway now. I fell in love too, man. What a beautiful place. Yeah.
You see what I'm talking about now? It's just like something special.
It is. Have you been during winter though?
Nope. But I do come from almost Canada, so.
Yeah, it means nothing with the darkness of Norway. That's another level.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, that's right. That's right.
What is it? 12 weeks of darkness?
Yeah.
It depends. It depends
like
how.
4 weeks are like really dark, and he's right. It depends how north you go.
Because it's a very skinny country, so like it's actually really like a lot north. It goes to the North Pole pretty much.
Yeah, my man, I gotta say, I visited Trondheim and Oslo. Trondheim is such a beautiful city. Have you been to Trondheim?
I didn't get to the Trondheim. I did not. That's the one place I didn't go.
I highly suggest it. Don't get stuck in Oslo. Trondheim is like a fairy tale place. It's so beautiful.
My favorite was it wasn't Oslo. I went to Tunsberg. It was the very first city that was set up by the Vikings, and now it's like a port. It's really cool too.
That sounds cool. Yeah, I love that.
Yeah. Anyways, all right. We'll stop gushing about Norway. Let's get back on track here. So when I said you were winning at that, though, what I mean is you're taking your brand. You're not only your brand. You're taking the sport and you're kind of putting a unique spin on it, where it's not just you lifting weights, you doing this and that. You're traveling. You're behind the scenes kind of footage with other people, bringing them in. It's kind of like
absolutely.
It's showing the beauty of the strength community. That's what I'm seeing of it, right?
Absolutely. High tides raise all ships. So I as I slowly come to the end of my career, I want to put the spotlight back on the other athletes that are coming in, or older athletes that other people don't know about, and just build the sport up.
And you got your guys' storytelling, and just with your character, and not name character, with your ability to just be yourself on camera, it just really looks pretty cool. So
thank you.
I know you're definitely going to win with that. Now, Nicholas,
I'm so excited. Yeah,
Nicholas is itching to ask you about your prep leading into your last two.
I got many questions, Martin. So we'll start.
Oh boy, let's go at it.
Before we start, I did watch I did watch the Colombia video. That was very good. I loved you talking throughout the whole thing. So
thank you.
It's great. Something that hopefully that we can implement one day. But yeah, let's start off. So it was interesting. You went from Arnold Classic prep right into World's Strongest Man prep. So it looked like you went from 12 weeks of training into another 12 weeks of training.
Not even. It was more like 6 weeks of training. I was so beat up after Arnold.
Yeah. Like lead us through like how you managed from the Arnolds to like recover in a short amount of time and then start prepping for Worlds.
That was rough. I think I would have even done much better at Worlds if it were not for Arnold's, because leading up to Arnold's, I about a month out, I really hurt my back to the point where I lost about 2 weeks of training going to the Arnold. I have a little herniation in my back, and for 4 days, I was struggling to even get out of bed. But I was working with physical therapy San Pedro, doing a lot of rehab, and that stuff is so important for any athlete. You should have a physical therapist that you trust and you go to, that you're always working on balancing your body out, working on your deficiencies, and also just healing your injuries. because I don't think I would have been able to compete, let alone win in the Arnold without that physical therapy assistance and help. So that was a blessing, man.
Would you say that? Would you say that the rehab and therapy is a big component of winning? Like a big.
I wouldn't have even been able to compete without it. Period. It's like I was there at the show and won the show because not only do I train hard, but I also rehab and take care of my body. And this is a brutal sport at the top level. It takes a toll when you're competing with these such heavy weights that you need to be constantly mending and tuning your body. It's like an instrument, it needs constant tuning. So after Arnold, I was beat up, because it took everything out of me just to compete and win there. So I took pretty much all of March off. I just did rehab, focused on my injuries, because it doesn't matter how hard you train, if you have pain, especially significant pain in the body, it shuts down strength. So my first priority was to lower the pain in my body before getting into World's Strongest Man prep. So all March, I was just stretching, working on stability, and allowing myself to take that time to get to a point where I knew, okay, now my body's ready to put up some weight. And basically, going into Worlds, I don't think I was even at peak strength. It was just a matter of trying to ride that strength that I had gained for Arnold and carry that into Worlds. And that's what I did. I wish I had more time. I would have given a better performance, but I'm still so happy that I got the podium, finished in Worlds as well. So it's been a good year.
Yeah, man. And, this is your first, but now it's about your first calendar year back. Like you took, you had that long break, which you took to heal your body so you can come back. So basically it's the end of the season. Worlds was the end of your first year back. How did you feel compared to previous years in the sport?
That's a good question. It's like in so many ways I feel stronger than ever. Like my pressing is by far stronger than ever. Some strengths I've pulled back a bit. Like I used to be a better deadlifter. I've struggled with some hip pains that I think my obturator externus has some tendonitis, which is such a weird small muscle no one ever thinks about. But
I'm trying to act like I know what you're talking about. I'm like, oh yeah. Oh,
man, I hardly know what I'm talking about.
This is my mask.
Yeah. So if you look it up, it's a small muscle that's acts both as an internal and external rotator in the hip. Attaches to like the ilia, somewhere in the obturator.
Yes,
hole
yes.
there. Yeah.
More words. Yes, more words.
Yeah. So that thing's been rough. So deadlift, not as confident, but it was still good enough to get me where I need to be.
That's pretty cool, man. Like, that's pretty cool when you reach that strength level where I'm not at my peak strength, but it's good enough where I could take second World's Strongest Man on a drop of a dime.
I love it. I'm happy with it.
Let's just say you had a few more weeks of training. Do you think you could have passed new deadlift levels or a new deadlift high if you had more time and maybe not the Arnolds to prep for?
Repetition wise, yes. I think I could have surpassed it. In terms of 1 rep max, that would take a little longer. That's a little harder right now for me.
You didn't have a deadlift at the Arnolds this year, so you were just squatting, right?
Yeah. 2 months of prep for a max squat, which I've never attempted before in my life.
Yeah, and then you right into a deadlift ladder event, and then you had deadlift for reps too, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So no deadlifting into deadlifting at World's level.
That's right. It was just like, okay, I did deadlift for a rogue, so I hope that strength's still here. It still is. Okay, now I just need to refine it a little bit.
Well, it's cool how you look. You're never one to make excuses because you're not the only one that did the Arnold and Worlds, right? So it's like, that's what I love about you too. Is you internalize you internalize the reasons and you fix the reasons, right? Instead of saying the reasons.
There's always reasons. There's always something to improve.
That's a mindset thing I think that champions possess, to internalize their flaws and address them.
Yeah, hell yeah.
So,
Martins, so you kind of touched about it a little before, but of course, a lot of our podcasts, of course, we want to educate our listeners, but what would you suggest for strongman looking to get into elite level in terms of the regimen when it comes to physical therapy and recovery? What level of commitment should they be focusing on a day-to-day basis?
That depends. If you just want to do it as a hobby, just work on your body maybe a few times a week to make sure that you have a good life thereafter. But if you want to be on a professional level, it's daily. Period. It has to be daily that you're doing something to address some sort of injury, deficiency, imbalance. Because it's like if you're a professional musician, do you ever play an instrument without tuning it first? Absolutely not. It's the same as a body. You have to tune it first.
Good question. And then, of course, we've seen, of course, watching the first episode of the Strength Unknown series, going down to Colombia. How are you feeling after the second round of stem cells?
The first week was rough, especially the shoulder. I mean, that needle was like that.
Yeah.
Because when you get the needles into the knees, they're like this. Okay, that sucks. It's gives me a little queasy feeling. I thought, okay, the shoulder is going to have to be a smaller needle. I mean, my joint's right here. Well, how long of a needle do you need? And then they pull this freaking thing out, and I'm like, why? Why is the shoulder like 4 times longer than the knee needle? It turns out they have to go through the back here, underneath the scapula, all the way into the joint, and that was oh man, I hardly could stay still for that, man. And then my shoulder was sore for a couple of weeks, like really sore for a couple of weeks after that. But now, a month later, a little over a month later, I feel a lot better. Like it used to before the stem cells. Just going to external rotation like this with no weight, that was really painful. Because I have arthritis in my shoulder now and some pieces of cartilage floating around in the joint, which I'm after this upcoming Rogue, I'm gonna have to get that vacuumed out.
Hey, Martins, you should look into what I just had for the arthritis pain and stuff. What I just had on my knee, the radio frequency ablation. They go in there. Now it's not a fix, but it's not a fix. But what they do is they go in there and they burn out all the pain nerves in your joint, so you can function pain free.
Wow. That sounds cool, but also scary.
Yes,
because then you don't know if you're overdoing it.
So it's to be used at the end of the road when you want to get that one last comp type thing.
That's yeah. That's pretty cool though.
But so far, like the day after I had it done, I was able to do lunges for the first time in like 5 or 6 years.
The day after.
Yeah.
Wow.
I did have to learn how to walk though, because I was limping still, but I didn't have to anymore. So I had to learn how to.
That's so interesting. Yeah.
So it's
wild.
Cool. Yeah,
that is really cool.
But stem cell wise, what did you do exactly for your knees? Like, have you had, like, for instance, like, is your meniscus has been gone from all the kind of...
This is cool. So I did have a meniscus tear in my left knee. Last year I went to get stem cells for that. And arthritis, that meniscus completely healed. It's not injured anymore.
That's
it did not. It could not keep up, however, with the wear and tear there was a cartilage. So the arthritis is still there. It helps a lot with our arthritis pain, but to heal back cartilage just takes so much time, and I would need to stop lifting for at least a year again to get that stem cells to heal back the cartilage. So not much there. Tendonitis, 90% gone. Tendonitis pains, by the way, that I had for years, that just no matter what I could only maintain it. I could not fix them. Those got almost completely went away. And my wrist, 100% healed. That was one of the biggest pains, oddly enough, that I had going into last year. So this year I just got my knees, I got my shoulder, and I got my elbow here. So we'll see. Right now, I feel pretty good. The knees take about 3 to 4 months to really feel a difference in. So still too early to tell.
So what would you think? So me and Anthony have had a bunch of scopes done to our knees in the past. Do you think stem cells would help with that?
I definitely think so, especially with any kind of ligaments, tendons. As long as there's something there, it can help heal it. Arthritis, I don't have experience of it helping with arthritis yet, significantly.
Because it's the absence of tissue is what causes arthritis. So
you need something to heal, and if there's especially a significant amount of it gone, it's hard.
That's pretty cool though. That's really cool that you sought it out and that it worked for you. I mean, that's amazing. It's a good story.
Yeah, it absolutely is. I love it.
So let's take a step back. So looking at your whole career, so out of all like the big wins that you've had, which one's your favorite and why?
Oh man, I mean, of course, winning 2019 World's Strongest Man, just because of the title. That is the competition I grew up watching that inspired me to get into strongman. That was the dream ever since starting in strongman. So winning 2019 World's Strongest Man is the ultimate win for me. I didn't, it took me a while to even realize that this is real life, that this just happened.
Yeah, that's a good answer. I'll accept that answer.
And then how long? So you won in 2019, and did you start your journey in 2011, 2012? I remember you were at 2013 Nationals, Denison, Texas, because I remember I was there at the 231s. But when did you start your career, or your first training session, or first competition?
My first competition was when I was 18 in New Hampshire. It was an Oktoberfest competition. I think I placed second in that one. Very small competition, very few competitors, but it got me my taste in strongman. I loved it. And then coming out to California, I started working out or training with Wood Haugen. And that was in around 2010.
All right. So when you were 18, what year was that? Or what year was that?
That was 2008. Yeah, 2008.
So for instance, so it took 11 years to get from training to World's Strongest Man.
Decade.
Yeah.
It truly is a
decade,
lifelong pursuit.
I hope you guys are listening. A lot of our listeners just want instant gratification. Takes.
I would even go a level above that. I started training when I was 9 years old, and by the time I was 11 or so, I had seen strongman on TV, and I was training with the intention from that age to get into strongman. So 2 decades.
Oh, that's so cool. Yeah. So people at home, just sit down. You're here for the long haul. Go buy a movie to watch. Just relax. It's gonna happen. It's gonna take some time.
It's good. Yeah, it's a journey.
But it's interesting. You mentioned Ode, and that was my next question. Just if you want to mention kind of like the impact that he's had on your career. So it sounds like you joined him in 2010. And yeah, just tell us what kind of impact he's had in terms of your growth in the sport.
Ode's had it. I don't think I'd be where I'm at without Ode. I mean, there's so many steps along the journey where he's had an enormous impact on the outcome of my career. I'd say one of the biggest things is patience, because when I first came to California, I really wanted to compete in the LA Old Haugen Strength Classic, and he wouldn't let me. And then a second year goes by, and he still doesn't let me. He tells me I'm not ready yet. 3 years go by of me training with Ode. At this point, I'm crushing competitions, or at least doing really well, showing that I'm ready. He said, "Okay, maybe you're ready now." And 3 years of training with Ode, he finally lets me compete in his show, and then I win it. I win it again. It was a pro-am show, and that's what won me my pro card. And then I got my invite to Giants Live from that. And another thing was that he taught me was persistence in networking, because Ode is huge on networking. You can't just sit on your thumbs and wait for someone to invite you. I had one Ode show, and I'm like, "Okay, what now?" He's like, "Well, now that you want a good enough show, you need to here's Colin Bice's contact. You need to message him over and over and over again. It'll take a while until he gets back to you, but don't quit. You're gonna find a way to get into that Giants Live show." And so I did. I was messaging both Colin Bryce and Ode for over a month. I mean, sorry, Colin Bryce and Magnus for Magnuson for over a month, until they finally got back to me like, "Okay, shut up, just get over here and do Iceland and compete in Giants Live. See what you got."
Oh, that's so cool.
That contest got me. I got third place there, competing against Hafthor and Mark Felix, and then I got my invite to Worlds.
Yeah, and then the rest is history, as they say, right? Been there ever since.
All right. But
absolutely.
There's some alternate universe that you said probably, "No, I don't want to go trade with Ode." In that alternate universe, what would have happened to Martins if you didn't go train with Ode? What kind of road would you have taken?
That's a good question. Like I said, the two most important things that I picked up from Ode were patience paired with persistence. I think there's I've trained with other crews in strongman. I'm not going to name them, but I learned a lot from training those crews. Intensity, technique. Well, that was great and all, but watching them, they would constantly be at redlining their bodies. And I would get to see these guys drop out after a few years. Like, they would do really well in the amateur circuits, but then they would get their pro cards or whatnot. Like, these guys were talented athletes, but because they were redlining all the time, their injuries took them out, and that was the end of their careers. I've seen this with so many athletes. They just are, hammering it way too hard, too often, and they don't get to an absolute top level because of that. So I think I would have been there with those guys. I do have a bunch of injuries, but it took me longer to get to this point where I have to amend my body a lot more.
Oh, interesting.
No, I think that's a great point. You do see that even at the pro level, you see a lot of guys that come in for a year or two and then they're gone because you put your body through the ringer. You don't take care of it.
I'll tell you like this also. I figure I have, in a year, if I want to do a year right, I have 4 months of heavy training. Think about that. 4 months. That's it. All the other ones are either medium or light.
Yeah. That's a season. That sounds like a plan, like an off season, like an actual structured attack like you would at a sport. I love it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So Martinez, one of our kind of big questions, but you were kind of mentioning that you, of course, had this pursuit for 20 years, but when did you realize your potential in the sport? When did you realize that you could be this Martinez, this King Dragon that you are?
Yeah. When did the dragon emerge? Because I think that's like your Martins and then the dragon conquers. It's like,
oh, that's interesting. Okay, so there's like two levels to that. First was just my realization that I could do well in the sport, that I meant to be in the sport. Was when I was a teenager, I would go to my farmland in Latvia and help out my grandpa on the farm. He was a stone sculptor, so I'd be helping him on the farm move all these rocks and stuff. And I was at this point also training with my dad in the gym too, already lifting up, putting up good numbers. And then I saw on TV these guys basically doing heavy farm work for competition. And I was like, oh, shoot, I'm almost putting up those numbers now. I belong up there. And I'm thinking about 5-10 years, I could be on that world level. And so I got to training with the intensity and focus of getting into strongman. And then I think I realized that, then to answer like the dragon question, I got the nickname in Moss Wrestling. That was like 2014 or so, when I was competing in the world championships in Siberia. And I took second place, and I had beaten a Russian. No one had beaten Russians in Moss Wrestling at this point on international level. And I almost beat the champion guy. And they just saw ferocity in me. That I flip a switch, and all of a sudden I am steam and focus and intensity. And that's where I got the nickname the Dragon. But where I realized it in strongman, I think it was getting second to Thor in the Arnold's Classic in 2019, actually. Because I knew I belonged. I knew I was one of the top strongmen as a heavyweight. But I didn't quite see myself as being world's strongest man material quite yet, until I got second at Arnold's in 2019, right before Worlds. And I was 4 points behind Thor. And I thought, there were so many spots where I could have made up that gap. Holy shit, I can beat this guy. I can win world's strongest man. I just need to work on a few weaknesses, and I will be the champion of here. So then I started training, doubling down on my training with the focus and knowledge that I know I can win. And then I won Worlds right that year. I remember even telling my friend, because normally before a competition, I could tell my friends, okay, I expect to place 4th, 3rd here. I might lose some points here, but of course I intend to win, so I'm going to do whatever I can to win. But my honest answer is I'm getting 3rd in this competition. It usually ends up that way. Going into Worlds in 2019, before I left, I was telling my friend, was like, so how do you think you're going to do this year? I just straight up told him, oh, I'm winning this one.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about it.
So I can do you one better, actually. Weird enough, I can point the exact moment that you emerged as the dragon as he is today.
Let's hear it.
That same year, Wheel of Pain, when you did the Wheel of Pain and you climbed that fucking thing, That's when you became the dragon to me. That's when
I love it.
That's when that was it. That was the moment you went from Martins.
Freaking epic.
You went from Martins to the dragon right there.
Freaking hell, I love it. Yes.
That is awesome. That is what an awesome story. Thank you, Martins. But we are on the Winner Circle podcast. So another common question.
Yep.
Fill in the blank, Martins. Winners are blank.
Ooh. I have way too many answers for this. Winners are.
You can give us a couple.
No, that's not the rule.
Consistent.
There he goes.
No, consistent.
Good one. That's a good one.
You must have watched one of our previous previous podcasts where we mentioned that we put you on a list of consistent kings.
He watches all of them because he loves the show.
Oh yeah, that's correct. So I would like to hear kind of your point of view here on this. So who are your 5 favorite and most inspirational strength athletes like right now? And I know like me and Anthony are 1 and 2, but this is our show. You can't use us. So outside of us, who are your favorite 5?
It wouldn't be fair to everyone else. It's just not fair.
Like what gets you inspired and out of bed sometimes when you're lacking motivation?
Your mom.
Oh no, not Michelle. Martin. No, not Michelle.
She listens to this, Martin. So you might get a follow after this, but
she's gonna start following him, DM him like smiley faces on his stories.
All right. So Ode Haugen, of course.
Awesome.
Mateusz. Because I remember in competing when I was an alternate for the Arnolds in I think it was 2017. Because I knew I belonged in World's Strongest Man at this point, but I thought statically there's no way that with my body size that I could do well in Arnold's. So I was on a mission to win Worlds, but Arnold's was like, okay, that's too far on the end of the spectrum in static strength. I don't belong there. I'm too small. And I even as an alternate, I was like, remember thinking, I hope no one drops out of the show so I don't get pulled into it. And then I saw Mateusz. I thought, oh, what is this skinny guy doing out here? He doesn't belong. Scrappy looking fella. He's gonna get crushed. And that year I saw this young dude that looked like he did not belong in the realm of static strength take 3rd place. Yeah. And that lit up a light bulb in me thinking, oh, I belong there as well. I like, so hats off and thank you, Mateusz, for lighting that fire in me.
Mateusz, MVP.
Got a few more or a couple.
Okay, so we got Ode and Mateusz. I would say JF Caron, because so many competitions I've gone to, even though I was competing in my first World's Strongest Man ever, even though I was competing against him, this guy pulls me over when I was practicing for the medley and gave me advice on how to better lift the keg or better approach the run.
What was do you remember the advice?
It was one, it was don't run behind it, run to the side of it. Mm-hmm. Nick Best also gave me that advice. And also because other guys were trying to lift, because the drum, these are drums for the medley. And I won this one in 20. That was my first event ever going to Worlds, and I won the event in my heat. It was the big drum carry in 2016 Botswana. These drums are enormous. And all these other guys were trying to shoulder them, which took way too much time, or lift them like kegs, which they're way too big. So JF told me to cradle it like a baby. And he said, don't worry about your bicep. It's so big that if you lean back, the weight's going to be on your body and not your arm. So that's what I did. I carried them with the drum and the curvature of my arm. And I won that event, and it made it so much quicker. He also told me to put it on one leg, to tilt it over.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, I remember that medley now that you describe it. I do remember that.
Yeah. And I was like this fool that I would always forget my chalk and tacky. And he comes, Slendy could me. He's like, I think next time bring your own. Here you go. So he was huge for me, and would continuously give me advice throughout the years. And so that's 3. And then another one, of course, is Nick Best. He also helped me so much with what equipment to use for certain events, what kind of stance to take in in deadlifts, how to get my yoke better, because my yoke's been atrocious and I have to take bits and pieces from everyone, how to get that better. Nick helped me quite a bit. And they would just like always check in on me in competitions and root for me. And that always boosted my confidence, morale. So Nick Best is up there. And the fifth one, this is tough. I might have to say Hafthor Bjornsson, just because he's also, I love training with him. He's someone that I thought for so long that I had a gap in my head I couldn't beat. And when I saw like a little sliver of an opening where I thought I could beat him, that inspired my training so much more. Of course, training side by side with him inspired me as well. And he was such a high standard to look up to, and still is to this day, that that pushed my training harder as well.
Oh yeah.
I remember watching one of a training video that you had with him. You're like teaching him how to press. He like goes out and wins every press event, but he's always with kind of like half decent form. And you're in there like, well, you're getting on your toes and you're pressing backwards.
Yeah. I'm like, you got legs for arms is the only reason this is coming together.
It's true. I mean,
Yeah.
the effortlessness with which he would do things sometimes. At his peak, when he was like the mountain. Oof.
Incredible. Yeah. Incredible. So really one of the most inspirational strongmen to watch.
Yeah.
And then one of my last questions before we get to some of the fan questions, and I don't know if Anthony has anything else too, but in 2 weeks, there's the deadlift world record happening. Do you see anybody hitting that deadlift?
Oh, that's interesting. Let's see. We got Mitchell Hooper, Rano Hanla, Pavlov's going as well, right?
Yes.
Forgot his last name. Pavlo looks pretty impressive.
Oh, not Koryaka. No, it's the other Pavlo. It's the one that fought Novikov.
They brought back
That's right.
They brought back the dude that was fucking hitting people.
Yeah, the one got kicked out.
Cool. It's just like the NFL.
Yay. I don't know much about him. I just know a lot of people have negative feels for him. I personally don't know the guy, but he does look insanely powerful. Ooh, this is gonna be tough. I think Rano's not quite at 100%. I think Rano with another month easily has the world record.
Really?
But lately, I think Rano can do it. Yeah, absolutely. He hasn't been at his 100% right now.
505 is just like I can't see it. Like Thor should have done it. He should have just been a dickhead and made it so nobody could ever take it again. That's what he should have done.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Because he could have that day. It looked like he had another 10 kilos in him that day.
He really did. Yeah. And Thor is insane. Yeah, he did that injured as well. I'm not sure if I should say that. Don't remember if that was a secret or not.
Everybody that's watching this, forget what you just
said.
Hey,
everybody's heard all the time. So
yeah.
I don't know why these guys keep these things a secret. Like, okay, you were injured when you did a world record. Let the world know, because then they'll think you're that much more amazing.
Because of social media, man. That's why you can't say nothing ever. Because people be like, oh, he's making excuses, or oh, I don't want to. All
right. So you're if you're a betting man, do you put money on a record being broken or not?
I don't.
You don't?
Right.
I bet these guys that can. I bet they can, but I don't think in their shape right now they'll break the world record.
I think it's a good answer. Yeah, I'm probably kind of the same stance.
Another thing that I think too, and people aren't really thinking about, is this kind of record. For example, Eddie trained for this record for years, right?
Yeah.
No one's gonna be another Thor and be able to just decide to do it randomly. No one's going to be able to do that. If this record is going to get broken again, it's going to take that kind of effort. And these guys aren't. They're kind of, this is another show to them. None of these guys have taken a year or two and only focused on the record. So I think that plays into it too, in my opinion.
That's a good point. Yeah.
All right. Excellent. Anthony, do you have any questions before the fan questions?
I never had any questions. I just want to look at Martins for an hour.
Ah, perfect. All right, so we can try
That's why I'm here.
Try to do like a rapid fire. Favorite cheat meal, Martins?
Fasting, because usually when I am eating so much, I get disgusted by all food. So I get excited when I could just not worry about eating. And not eat for a day. It actually feels great.
Okay.
Great answer. What is your favorite hype song before a big lift?
I think Radio by Rammstein.
Rammstein. Yes.
Rammstein all the way. I can't wait to see them when they come to the US.
It's they're coming to Chicago, right? Is that what they're playing? Or
And LA as well. Yeah.
Oh, nice. Yeah. Oh, maybe I'll come out. Maybe I'll come out. We'll go to Rammstein.
Oh, that would be awesome. Please do come out. Yeah.
When do you know when is it? Do you know? All right, we'll talk later. No, we'll talk.
Beginning. Yeah. Well, I'll text you.
Yeah.
Martins, in a contest, when you hear go, what do you see and hear? Do you have tunnel vision, or are you pretty aware of everything that's going on?
It is hyper tunnel vision when I hear go. Yeah. I have rehearsed the motion over and over in my head. I've rehearsed the weights even feeling heavy. I don't want to imagine them being light. I always imagine how the weight feels, how that weight sucks, and then also imagine the kind of force I would need to exert to make that weight fly and how that would feel on my body. So never try to imagine it feeling light or easy, because then if it's not, I would psych myself out and get surprised. So when I get to the weight, it feels like shit. I've already thought it would feel like shit. I'm ready for it, and I throw it up.
Like it.
Martins, in your opinion, is it better to start in other disciplines? Let me rephrase it. Is starting in other disciplines better for strongman than just starting in strongman? So for instance, if you came from a basketball or wrestling or football background, is that better for strongman starting out or just starting strongman to be a strongman?
That's a good question. Well, I don't have the experience of not starting. I mean, of just purely starting a strongman, because I come from a little bit of American football background and wrestling background. And I think more than anything, wrestling taught me how to focus and have intensity in the sport. If I just did pure strongman, I don't think I would have had that savage switch that happens. The wrestling taught me that.
I'll have to add you to the list of wrestlers. We had a whole podcast where we were just talking about all the wrestlers.
Nice.
Kevin Ferris.
Yeah. Even I wrestled for a couple of years.
Yeah.
Even Anthony.
Even me.
All right. This is a fan question. Up to you if you want to answer it. But
yeah, you don't have to answer these.
How would you compare yourself against Novikov, and who's better all around?
Novikov's freaking incredible. I mean, his technique work and his overhead are second to none. He has really good mobile and stable shoulders that allow his overhead to be so absolutely phenomenal. His work capacity is beyond mine, I'm pretty sure. He's faster carry speeds for the most part, unless it's like a carry medley, then I could beat him. Or if it's a farmers, I could beat him. I would say his truck pull sucks, except for this World's Strongest Man. I don't know what food or what he ate. I don't know what happened there. He beat all of us. That's impossible. So it shouldn't happen. I still have nightmares about it.
Yeah, you can see it in your face when you thought about it. Like, that son of a bitch.
How? I'll tell you, I got to the end of that truck pull thinking, okay, right now my legs are burning a little bit. I know I've won this. I've beaten everyone before me. I could let off a little bit so I could conserve some energy for other events. There's no way Novikov's beating me. And then he beats me. So
yeah,
just that shouldn't happen.
Shocking.
Now, were you thinking that, or did you say that to someone?
What
were you thinking that, or did you say that to someone that like no one's
in the middle? Yeah, in the middle of the truck pull, I'm like, okay, I won this. Like, I'm also counting in my head. I'm watching. I could tell how fast I'm going. Yeah, I'm totally. Like 3/4 of the way into the truck pull, I'm like, I won. Okay, cool. Let off the gas a little bit to just coast through. Save some of my energy for the other events. That was a mistake.
That reminds me of the Worlds back in the day when Brian Shaw threw the kegs and he celebrated for the first time ever on TV, and then Thor beat him right after.
That was so awesome. That was like my favorite moment.
Yeah.
Like Brian's like he was like, I don't celebrate, but I'm pretty confident no one's ever gonna beat that.
The face he was looking, he was like,
So that you had you had that moment on the truck pull. You're like, nobody's gonna beat this truck pull.
100% had that moment, especially thinking I thought Novikov would lose points on that.
Yep.
Don't know how that's possible. He's one of the lightest competitors out there. So who's better? I'll say this: I've beaten him. I've never lost Novikov. I've always beaten him, but at this Worlds it was close. He would have beaten me. The only thing is, after that truck pull, I was talking to him. He said that his energy just hit a wall, and then he lost everything. So,
do you think if he conserved energy a little better, maybe he came like second, third?
I think if he gave up some points on the truck pull, he would have gotten second. Yeah.
Interesting, but yeah, you're still. I was gonna say, you're still
except for Stones. What was that?
I was gonna say you're still his great white buffalo. He's like he's beating everybody except Martins.
Yeah, that's right.
We got to keep it that way, right, Martins?
That's the plan. Yeah.
Ooh.
So it's hard to say. I won every single one, but I plan to keep it that way. But
you heard it here first, ladies and gentlemen. Martin says Alexei will never beat him. Put it down in your journals. Take it to the bank. Remember this moment.
So run us through. What does the rest of the year look like for you, Martins?
Rogue Invitational. Then I'd like to do another episode of Strength Unknown, either in Japan or Greenland. I almost said Greenway. Just spent too much time in Norway. But yeah, Greenland or Japan. We'll see what happens with COVID restrictions and flying. My dream is Japan.
Yeah, but you want to do it right. You want to make sure you can do everything you need to do when you go there.
And then after that, I'll see if I want to do Worlds or not. I think I'm going to skip Arnold's. I really want to win that, but at this point, I think I have 4 heavy shows left in me. So maybe I'll just choose those 4 shows to be the Rogue, because at this point, that prize is going up, guys.
That's not.
I can't say no to that. Yeah, I can't say no to that. As long as that's on the table, why would I do any other show?
And that gives you the advantage, because if you're training for that, because most of the other guys aren't going to do that, so you're going to have to be able to focus in and just keep taking that money.
That's what I want. That show is worth all the shows in a year. So
that's another unique component that Rogues bring in now with these higher prize pools. That's kind of shifting a little bit. So it's going to be interesting to see how everybody responds and how everything grows because of it.
100%. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So we'll see if I do Worlds again.
Speaking of that, I do remember one fan question that I had. When are you going to do the Shaw Classic, Martins?
If the Shaw Classic was around when I was 25, 26, or 27 years old, I would have done it in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
It is a beautiful show, and I love what Brian Shaw's doing. But like I said, I've got 4 shows left in me, and I got bills to pay.
Yeah, I think that's probably the best reason anyone's ever had to not do a show, or, to pick shows over certain shows. I think that right there is the best reason.
Like,
knowing
all the respect for that show. I love it. I love what he's doing. It's extremely heavy, and that takes a toll on my body. I got to be smart about what I choose to do.
I love it, man. I love the self-awareness. You can't buy that. You know what I mean?
So Martins, again, thank you for coming on. And for our listeners, make sure you check out Martin's YouTube to watch his series on the Strength Unknown, especially the first episode being out, this Columbia episode. Check out his Wreck-It Ralph gym app so you can.
It's not Wreck-It Ralph, it's Wreck-It Gym.
Oh, that was.
It's the Wreck-It Power.
Yeah,
Wreck-It Power.
You're right. You can't say Wreck-It Ralph because that'll get him into trouble.
So I wrote Wreck-It Gym app, but that was just my thing.
Wreck-It Power app. Guys.
Disney is listening right now, and we're all going to be abducted by Disney tonight.
Yeah. And
Great job.
And if you like what you guys heard today, just drink some Reigns. It will go back to Martins.
Rain Body Power Martins, Beard Stroke. I'm looking for Disney right now.
Hey, Martins, and don't forget.
Nick's already up in heaven right now because they took him out. So.
Yes.
But Martins, for your Strength Unknown, don't forget about Boston. There's a lot of strong people around this area. So if you're ever in town,
I know.
but don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell. Make sure to follow on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. And Martins, you have the last word.
More cheats!